Yes. Yes, for sure. For sure. Okay, this parak is a return to Yevamot, just when you thought it was safe to go out of the water. It's a return to Yevamot, and predominantly it discusses the mitzvah of miyun. Miyun is the kedusha abanim of a katana. So there's we say midoraisa, a father can marry off his daughter when she's a katana. It's beating the sakli shazeh. Midoraisa, a father can marry off his daughter, and if the father does marry off the daughter, the only way to get out of that marriage is al yidei the get. Since it's kedushin deoraisa, the only way to go ahead and stop that marriage is al yidei get. That would be if the father married her off. What happens if the father died? What happens if the father died, and the brother, the brother of the girl or the mother of the girl are given a right by the Chachamim to go ahead and marry her off, because we're concerned that she should have protection. She shouldn't be hefker. So if they're Mekadesh, that's called Kedusha de Rabbanan. It's Kedusha de Rabbanan. And if that marriage, as long as she's a katana, she could absolve the marriage, annul the marriage simply by miyun, by refusing to live with him anymore. I don't want to live with him anymore. It's a lashon of miyun, the shtar miyun. This is a lashon used. That we're familiar with that. We've been introduced throughout the Masechah. This parak deals with. There's just one more case of miyun, that the father has a one-shot deal to marry her off. If the father marries her off and then her husband dies or she gets divorced, then she has a right to marry herself off. But the father's alive, that kedushin would still be kedushin derabanan. So it's possible to have miyun without the father in the scene because he's dead. It's possible to have miyun with the father in the scene, and that's called yisoima b'chaye av, a yisoima in the lifetime of a father. So there's a two mitzias. But again, the main point is that miyun is the kedushin is the ending of a kedushin derabanan. Miyun is the way to refuse it. Like what I get is to a regular marriage, right? What a chalitza is to a zika, a miyun is to a kedushin derabanan. However, it's a little different. Whereas a get, you are married and divorced, you're ending a marriage, karas. Chalitza, you're connected, there's a zika and you're breaking it. By miyun, you're going ahead and saying there never was a marriage. Okay, pashut, you're annulling the marriage, okay, whatever that. Now, Beishama Yoimim says the parak, Beishama Yoimim, ein memanin, you cannot do miyun el arusais. In other words, there are different stages of marriage. There's kedushin and there's nesuin. And nesuin, once the marriage is consummated, they're married together. Says Beis Shammai, at that point in time, the miyun would not be able to take place. We're going to see 4 reasons in the Gemara as to why Beis Shammai says there's no miyun by nesuin. We'll see 4 reasons. It's only from erisin. In other words, when the mekadesh, the katana, she can refuse the kedushin, but she can't refuse what? By nesuin. That's the shita of Beis Shammai. With Beis Hillel, arusais v'nesuas, not only arusais but nesuas as well. So we're going to have 5 different machlokasim between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. This is the first one, whether it's only by arusa, or even by a nesua. Second machlokes, Beis Shammai bebal v'loi biyavam. It's only by a husband and not by a yavam. Beis Hillel says bebalu biyavam, by bal and yavam. The Gemara, we're going to have a few different scenarios. Exactly what does that mean? What does that mean? That the scenario would be if a person would die, and the girl falls to Yibum, then she can go ahead and refuse marriage to her brother-in-law. She's a shemeres yavam. She could refuse marriage to her brother-in-law. Right? The zika is not better than the etzem kedushin. The etzem kedushin, guys, is what? Is there Rabbanon? So the Zika is only a Zika de Rabbanon, right? So just like the Mian can end the first marriage, the Mian would be able to go ahead and end the Zika according to Beis Hillel, according to Beis Shammai, not. So that's the second machlokes. The first one, Arusa, not Nesua, according to Beis Shammai. Second one, Baal, not Yavam, and Beis Hillel, both. Third machlokes, Beis Shammai Yomim, B'fanav, when she does Mian, she has to do it to his face. Either in front of him or not in front of him, you're able to go ahead and refuse the marriage. That's the third machlokus. And the fourth machlokus, the Gemara is going to say that doesn't mean that's not a bezdin, it means not a bezdin of mumchin, but you would need 3, as we saw earlier. So that's the fourth machlokus. Even what? 2 and 4 times. In other words, let's say she has Kedushin Rabbanan ends, Kedushin Rabbanan ends, Kedushin Rabbanan ends. She can keep on as long as she's in the state of a katana. She can be mamai in multiple marriages. And I'm on the Beishamai, Ein B'nai Yisrael Hefker, they're not Hefker, Elo Me'enes. She goes ahead and does mion to the husband. Umam Tenis at Shetagdil. She waits till she gets older. B'tima'in. And she does mion. The Gemara is going to ask, well, you do mion again? Once you did mion once, why are you doing it a second time? And then B'tinase, and she marries. So we have 5 machlokes. In the first one, Arusa versus Nesua. Second one, Baal versus Yavam. Third one, B'fana Shlei B'fana, Bezdin Shlei B'bezdin, and what? And how many times one can go ahead and perform yibum mion in her state of katnus. Okay, that's the Mishnah. Okay, Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel. My timer de Beishamai. What's the reasoning of Beishamai who says that you can't go ahead and only by Erisin and not Nesuin? What's the reason? By Erisin and not Nesuin, what's the reason of Beishamai? We're going to have 4 separate reasons. First reason, my time Beishamai Lefisha ain't Tanai bin Nesuin. There's no Tanai bin Nesuin. Now, be medayik the lashon, fellas. Nesuin versus kedushin. There's yesh tanai b'kedushin. In other words, this is your kedushin almanas that you walk to 34th Street. If you fulfilled it tonight, it's a good kedushin. We're not discussing the act of betrothal. We're discussing the act of consummating a marriage. There's no tonight to nesuin. Rashi brings an unbelievable svara that let's say he made it tonight. He said, this is your kedushin, on tonight you do this. And then he gets to Nesuin. The chiba of the Nesuin, the chiba of the bia, of living together, will be mevatel the tonight that's made. In other words, he so much wants to marry her and live with her physically, he's going to go ahead, and do away with whatever tonight there was. So there could be that any tonight that was maybe kedushin, once you get to the level of Nesuin, achule achle is lashon Rashi. The Baal is moichel because of the chibas bia, he'll be moichel. So therefore, now, the problem is that by a Yevama, by over here, she can go ahead and nullify that. So if you go ahead and say yesh miyan bin nesuin, you'll come to say that what? That yesh tenai bin nesuin. Why does Shammai say you can't have miyan by nesuin? Because mistakenly they'll say, oh, just like by miyan. She'll say, you know why she went out of it? They won't know any chachma. They'll think what? They didn't fulfill it tonight, and therefore what? That's how she got out of the marriage. They won't know this lumdis of miyan. They'll see, 1 second, they got married, and now it's shoin nishkan marriage. Why would they say this shoin nishkan marriage? Because there was a tanai in the nesuin that wasn't fulfilled, not realizing that what? It was miyan. Therefore, to avoid that problem where you have a churva coming out of yesh tanai bin nesuin, we do not allow, according to Beis Shammai, what? To say miyan bin nesuin. So miyan bin nesuin is to avoid the problem of what? Of yesh tanai bin nesuin. That's the first pshat. So I'm going to read them Shmuel, my time with Beis Shammai, the fishin tanai bin nesuin, the noises. And Timayin, and if she gets married, and she refuses the marriage, you'll come to say yesh tanai bin nesuin. Okay. What about the following case, guys? Nichnaso lechuppah v'loy nivala. Now, Beis Shammai said the following: miyon is only by erisin, correct? There's kind of a step of nesuin without a bia, which we call chuppah. Once you're at the chuppah, that's the second stage. So there's no bia there. There's no bia by chuppah. Yet Rabbi Shammai would be maida. There's no miyan by chuppah. Why? Because he said there's only miyan by arusa, the first stage. Chuppah will be a latter stage. So, but your svara of this chiba of the bia does not apply by chuppah. Says the Gemara. Well, 1 second, something else does apply. Yesh time nichnas lechuppah nivala mayik lemeimar. There is no tanai by the chuppah. There is no tanai by, meaning since the chuppah is leading up to, once you get to the chuppah, the chiba of the husband and wife is there, and it'll be mevatel any tanai. So the same svara that would be by bia would be by chuppah, and therefore we're not worried. Therefore, what? You can't do miyan. Says Gemara, Masa av l'shluchi abal ma'ikla meimar. If the av gives over to the shluchi abal, what do you say? Now, again, Erisin is except the kedushin, and then after 12 months, the husband sends for his wife. The father gives it over, And that's already a step. You're not an Arusa anymore. Beis Shammai said Mian is only by Arusa. Guys, Mian is only by Arusa. What about if the father gave it over? What about if the father gave it over? So what are you going to say over there? And for the Gemara, lay plug. They didn't make a distinction. Now, it begs to say, guys, if Mian is usually when the father's dead, how can you give over to Shluchei Abal? If Mian is when the father's dead, right? How could you say the father's giving over to Shluchei Abal? So look at Rashi. Rashi runs the question. You have to go down a little bit. A Masra Av l'Shluchei Abal. My iklamemar inami yaslamemar tanoi moil b'mesira. If you can say Tanai helps b'mesira shapakamai, why? Shay ain't kan chiba. There's no love there. There's no chiba that he should be moichel Tanai. The name of achle l'tanol the kedushin. So it says the Gemara like plug, and Rashi just says Hai Masra Av lav dafka. When it says Masra Av, it doesn't mean mamash the Av. The ilim shekabel avia kedushaseha. Like nothing for me, and if the father was around and he was mekabel the kedushin, there's no such thing as mian, guys, because that would be the raisa. The av zakei be kedushay bitoy. They mian it'll be saima shekedushasa ima v'achia. That only exists when the mother or the brother married her off. So if the father's marrying her off, guys, there's two problems over here. One, if it's a case of mian, has the father alive, but more importantly, if the father's giving her over, it's kedushay deraisa. There was no mian there, right? V'hachi kamar. Says Rashi, Masa av l'shluchei habal the kaimlam b'ksubis the nesuin ninu, meaning that act of giving over is equal to nesuin. With kavase hacha masrua a'achin l'shluchin, the brothers gave her over to the shluchin having nesuin. So why shouldn't you do me? And in this case, okay. So guys, simply what is he saying? If the svara of Shmuel is correct, that the reason we don't do mian, because it may come to lead to being make a tnai b'nesuin. What about a scenario where the reason of chiba does not apply? The reason why ain't tnai b'nesuin is because of the chiba's bia. He'll previously be moichel any existing tnai. What about by chuppah? He'll also previously, if you get to the part of chuppah, he's going to be moichel tnai. What about if you give over to the shluchei abal? Now, that's like you're out of Erison already, and there's no chiba yet. My iklamema, why over there would Beis Shammai said you can't do mion? After all, it's not arusa. On that, the Gemara answers like plug. The Chachamim did not make what a distinction. Now, you could have given this teretz earlier. My son asked me today, why don't they say loy plug right away? I answered him, I think loy plug is when you don't have a better teretz. This is my own interpretation. If I have a better teretz, I'll give you a better teretz. Loy plug is when there's like I have no alternative. I'll say loy plug. But I think if you have another teretz, it's always better to give another teretz. Okay, that's Shmuel's pshat. In why Beis Shammai says nesuin, by nesuin there's no what, there's no mian by nesua. A second pshat, a second interpretation. Beis Hillel made the yediyah. Why does Beis Hillel disagree with Beis Shammai? Made the yediyah in nesui katana d'rabbanan. Everyone knows that the nesum d'rabbanan is the rabbanon. So guys, so what? So they won't say if she goes free that there was tanai there. They'll know it's because she was a katana. Again, what's the concern? She goes free. They won't realize it's me, and they'll think it's because there wasn't a tanai that was fulfilled by the nesuin. No, everyone knows the kedushin katana is the rabbanon, and they'll know there's a din of mian. That's why Beis Hillel is not concerned by nesua, according to the svara of Shmuel. Again, three more pshatim as to why Beis Shammai would hold by nesua there's no din of mian. Okay, Rabbi Yosef Damri Travayu. Time of the Beis Shammai. That's the reason Beis Shammai. Right. A person does not go ahead and make his bilas nus. Now he goes into a marriage with a girl. Now usually when a man's in marriage, the ending of the marriage is in his hands. He's the one who gives the get. Over here, the ball's in her court. So what? I'm going to marry a girl that at any time after I live with her, she's going to say that what the marriage is off. Nimsa every time I was with her was what? Was a bias nus. So a person, therefore, by nisuin won't do it. Mashen came by erison. There's no bia, correct? So erison no bia, you can do mian. Mashen came over here that by bia nus. Fred, the same questions before. So what do you worry about there? There's no bia there. Says the Gemara, like Nichalei that the Havi Chuppah di Surah. That person's not happy that his chuppah should be a chuppah of Issa. In other words, I don't want, if I get to the point of chuppah, I don't want them going saying that I was under the chuppah with a girl and it was a chuppah of Issa that I was not supposed to be there. Masur Abdu Shulchi Abal Ma'iklamema, what are you going to say over there? So you say lay plug rabbanon. So we have two pshatim. We have Shmuel's pshat of yesh type of ksuba in the suin. That was our concern to avoid that. And Rabbi Yosef pshat lefishen adam oisi bilas bilas nus. And since this girl at any time could go ahead and annul the marriage and make us bilas nus, therefore we will say that what amy and bad by in the suin. Obey Hillel. Kivin dik kedushin ksuba loyasel meimad bilas bilas nus. Since it's not a bilas nus, why? Because leading up to it is kedushin, is ksuba. So afterwards, but still, a bilasness is what? Is man goes with a girl outright and just for the sake of being together, is together. Over here, where previously there was a kedushin and then there was a ksuba. Afterwards, she goes ahead, what is going to go ahead, what and avoid the marriage and annul the marriage. The guy doesn't avoid that as a bilas nus. After all, look what he did. He gave a ksuba, he gave a kedushin. That's not a bilas nus. No, it's a protocol. So there's a loophole. The marriage is not a marriage anymore. The guy is not going to avoid that. So therefore, Beis Hillel says, like Rabbi Rav Yosef, that Beis Hillel says you could even do mian by a nesua. Papa Amar.
The mian does it retroactively.
Yes. The Papa Amar. Time in the Beis Shammai Mishum Peri. Now we all know that a person, when he gets married, she brings into marriage what's called nichsei miloig, and the husband gets what? The usage of that. The husband gets the usage of that. He can use it, meaning he can use the Paris. Good. He gets the Paris. He's supposed to keep the property in good shape. He's not supposed to run down the property. And in a case where the guy knows the marriage could be ended at any time, you know what he's going to do? He's going to destroy that property. So therefore, says Rav Papa, we don't give that opportunity. Rav Papa, I'm a time of the Risham Mishum Peri, time of Beis Mishum Peri, time of Risham Mishum Peri. Diam in the Sua Timoyen. If you can say that in the Sua, can do mion shamit for achalahu mina. Right, the slave will make it for kaima. He's going to go ahead and milk that property for whatever it's worth because he knows in the end he's going to lose it. Or Beis Hillel, Adarabba, keeping the army Timoyen, since she can end the marriage. He's going to go make it better. If I don't do it, in other words, let's say I run the property down. You know what the Krav I'm going to tell her? Do me on. It's like psychology. If you're gonna go ahead and improve the property to ensure that he doesn't do me on. It's gavaldic, right? In other words, here you go. If you're going to destroy the property, what are they going to say? Oh, this guy is he's not a good bet. Get out of there, right? So Adarabba, and you're not going to go ahead and run down the property. You're going to improve the property to avoid the miyah. That's the svara of Hillel. Why? And the Sua, according to Rav Papa, can do miyah. And finally, we have the Rav is the answer. Rav Amahainu time Beishamai Shenod Tareach Besuda Umafsida. What's he going to do? He's going to work hard, pay the caterer, everything. You're going to make a big wedding. You're going to pay everything. What's going to happen then? She's going to say it's off. So therefore, what? To avoid that, we'll say that what? No. To avoid that possibility, we'll say once we got to the point in the suin, there's no mion. The wedding's paid for. Go eat. Go to the height. Mendy, as much chance as you want to the carving station, you can go zoom up there. They're both happy. They're both happy that the marriage, not worried about getting that, refuting the marriage because the coil that the man and wife goes out. So we have 4 pshatim. We have Shmuel. It says yesh time b'nesuin. That's what they're worried about. That we're worried they may say yesh time b'nesuin. We have Rabbi Rav Yosef. Says that a person will not make his bila bilas. We have Papa Mishum Peris. And we have Rav because Adam Tareach Besuda Umafsida. And therefore, he won't go ahead, and if a person's going to go ahead and avoid the marriage, he won't get a Suda. What? Yeah, no, he'll say he won't get married. He'll say, listen, why should I bother getting married if she can end the Suda? She can destroy the Suda. Why you can't marry? Okay, next piece of Gemara is challenging. Okay, how to best explain? Let's go to a scenario. Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel are arguing by miyun, right? They're arguing by a yavam. According to Beis Shammai, it's only by the second machlokes. It's only by a baal. Beis Hillel says it's only by a yavam. Good. In other words, let's take Beis Shammai off the board. Like Beis Shammai, there's no situation of any pictures that we had with Miyun of the marriage, and the picture book had nothing to do with Beis Shammai. Why? Because Beis Shammai says there's no Miyun by a Yavam, only by a husband. Only by a husband. Good? So now, Beis Hillel on the other says, no, even by what? Even by so we're going to have a few different opinions and scenarios in Beis Hillel. So like Beis Hillel, exactly when is this Miyun possible to take place? Exactly when? Let's go through. You have Reuben and Shimon. Good? Reuben's married to this Katana, Kedusha D'Rabbanan. Okay? He dies. Right then and there, she can go ahead and be ended. She could say, you know what? Even though you're dead, I don't want that marriage to be. In other words, why does the Miyun have to be in the lifetime of the person? Since it's all in her court, she refuses to be in this scenario, so she can end any Zika that might be created by the death of Reuben. In other words, there's no Zika to Shimon. There's no Zika. Why? Because she ended the marriage. Or you could say, no, she falls in front of Shimon. Shimon wants to marry her, and now she refuses Shimon. Or Shimon does Yibum, and then she does Miyun after that. Because again, the Zika, guys, the Zika of Ruvain that was created by that marriage to Rabbanon the Zika can't be stronger than the marriage. And just like she can end the marriage with a Miyun, she could end the Yibum with a Miyun. So exactly where that takes place is like in the next piece of Gemara. Exactly. So really, it's in base the Shittas Beis Hillel that there is Miyun by a Yavam. What is the scenario? To what extent do we say it? And that's the next piece of Gemara. It's a good piece. Beis Hillel says Afila B'Yavam. So this is all in Shittas Beis Hillel, guys. All in Shittas Beis Hillel. Amar Baishia, Mima Enes Lama. Let's say Shimon's is the live brother. He gives a mimer. He gives a mimer to the katana. What would that help? Right? That the Miyun, if it gave mimer, what does mimer create, guys? In a regular case, what does mimer create? The need for a get. In addition, guys, remember, in addition to the chalitza to take off the zika, you need a get to take off the mimer. This is Yevamot's first base, right? Oh, but says Rabbi Shia, if he does a mimer and you do miyun, you would need a get. If he does kedushin, you would need a get. You do miyun, you would need a get. However, you would still need chalitza because the miyun doesn't affect the zika. The miyun, the Gemara, we'll see why in a second. Okay, so again, the guys, Rabbi Shia is splitting hairs. Rabbi Shia is splitting hairs. He's saying what miyun does. Miyun can end a mimer if given, but it cannot go ahead and cut a zika. It cannot. And therefore, to get out of this marriage, miyun's not enough. She would need chalitza. A get she would not need. Says the Gemara, Omer of Chisda, my time with Rabbi Shia. What's the reason for Rabbi Shia? What's his reasoning? Again, what's his reasoning that to make a distinction between mimer and a zika? So, mimer the midaita, mimer that was she accepted willingly, matziak akra. She's able to be oikerit. She can uproot it. In other words, she got in, she got out. She accepted the kedushin the rabbanon as symbolized by the mimer. She can get out with me, and she's still a katana. Zika the bal karcha. She had no control of the zika. When as soon as her husband died, she fell to hayavam lematza akra. She can't be aika. Okay, guys, what would the din be? The din be if he did yibum, Shimon was miyabim her, he lived with her. Could she then end the marriage with a miyun? Why? What? Sure. Say what? You can end the marriage with a miyun. You can still end the marriage with a miyun. It's only kedusha rabbanon. Again, she could end the marriage with the miyun. Yeah. Now, is yibum bal karcha against the will? Yeah. So we see that if you bal karcha, something against your will, miyun could go ahead and override. So that can't be the svara of Rav Oishia that Rav Chisda is suggesting the difference between what between Mion and Maimar, that Maimar is Midaita, and this is Balkarcha, because I just proved to you Balkarcha, you could end the Mion. With Mion, you could end it. Says the Gemara, Vari Bia de Balkarcha, Bia that is against her will, Amid Beis, Umatza Akra, and she's still able to go ahead and be Oiker, that she would not need a get for the Bia. Good, you still be able to eat it. So what do you have to say? Ella Bia Umaimer, Bia or Maimer, the who Ka'avid, he's doing it, Matzis Akra. She's able to go ahead. Zika, the Rahmana Rama Allah, Zika, that the merciful one, the Torah goes ahead and throws in her, like Matzah Akra. That's the distinction between the two. You want to know why Rabbi says, Yesh Mion Lemaimer, and Ein Mion Lezika? It's not Balkarcha. That's not the reason. The reason is it man-made or God-made? If it's from man, such as Maimer, such as Bia, then she's able to take that off. But Zika, which is a Kadosh Baruch Hu saying exists, that you can't. Zika, you can't.
What if there is Zika?
From the brother. It's a Zika
the
D'Rabbanan, but whatever it is, the means also. In other words, the mechanics are over here.
No, you're saying it's the Raisa.
Right? No, Rachmana means that Yibum over here is the Raisa. In other words, the concept of Yibum.
What I'm asking is, how can the Yibum be the Raisa if the marriage was only the
I don't think it means it's the Raisa. I mean, it thinks the mechanism of Yibum, which is that works all your day. Why is there a Zika at all?
Right, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. So again, there is a Zika because again, we'll go through the same protocol of the Raisa-tic scenario. We'll go through it in the Darbanetic scenario. That's what it means.
That's why I thought Mian wouldn't, because the Raisa mean when she married the,
No, but you're starting anew, but it's not true. It's not true because again, you're Ashes Ach, the heter to marry your brother's wife over here. Again, we're marrying your brother's wife. So obviously that we're saying that there's a Zika that to matter that, right? And so I'm saying that so certainly Mian would end that. As long as she's in the state of the Rabbanon, any connection is a connection to Rabbanon. Except if her father married her off. Except if her father married her off. Yeah. So I think the Rahmana over here means the Holy One, that Kodesh Baruch Hu. In other words, a man did not go ahead and Mekadosh her. That's what it means over here. Rahmana means that the Torah required the scenario, but even though it's the Rabbanon, but the Torah requires the scenario. Ula Amar, Ula says, okay, so we have Oishia, again, Rabbi Oishia, guys, what are we doing? In Beis Hillel, who says that why? There's a din of Mion by Yevamot. Says Rabbi Oishia that limitation is to what? To Maimer, but it would not extend to what? To the Zika itself. That would not, you would not go ahead, you would still need a chalitza. Guys, that's the point. You still need a chalitza. Says Ula, no. Ula Amar, if she does miyun, there's no connection whatsoever. She's a free bird. My timer, the sui kamoy akra, her previous kedushin, she was akar. So in other words, he agrees, guys, listen to this. He agrees that miyun can take off a zika, but there's no zika. This might help you, right? Guys, you hear? Guys, listen. He could be moida that Mion can take off a Zika, but what Mion can do with to create there is no Zika. If you're annulling the marriage, she was never married to Ruvain to fall to Shimon, so there is no Zika. That's Ula. So we have two shitas in Beis Hillel, Oishia shita that the Mion's limited to taking off the Maimer but not Zika, and the shita of Ula that it would take off afilu a Zika. Now, Esivei Rabba Leula, asks Rabba to Ula. Now, here's the case. A man is married to his niece, the Rabbanan. Guys, listen to the case. Listen to the case. A man married off his daughter. Guys, outside. A man married off his daughter as a katana, and she became an almana. She now is in her own jurisdiction. The father cannot marry her off, but the father's in this world. She marries herself off to her uncle, her father's brother. She marries herself off to her uncle, her father's brother. He has another wife. Good. He dies. The brother dies. And now she's falling in front of the father. That's the first case of Mesechtes Yevamis. Bitai, the 15 Ervis, right? That Mata det Sarah. The first case was if a man married his niece and he died and fell to the father. So that's the first case, right? Over here, however, it's the Rabbanon. So what? So she should do miyun, right? She should do miyun, but let's say she doesn't. So here's the case. Kol sheyachol l'moyin, anyone who's able to do miyun, if she would do miyun, then the tzara would be permitted. If you would do miyun, the tzara would be permitted. But anyone who's able to do miyun, v'loy miyun, and doesn't do miyun, sayrasa chaletzes loy misyabemes. The chalatza, the tzara gets chalitza loy misyabemes. She can't do yibum because of the zika of the daughter. She can't go free totally because it's not really a connection because it's only the Rabbanon. Amai, why can't you do yibum to the tzara like ula tima ein hashta? Go ahead and now after the death of her husband, go ahead and do miyun to the marriage. V'takminu l'nesuei kamoi, and you'll be oikad in nesuin to the uncle. V'tisyabim sarasa to the father. So ula, obviously, if we say that the tzara you have to do chalitza, it must be that what? That the kedushin, it doesn't, it's not oika. The miyun is not oika. Sarah's Gemara, 1 second. Sarah's erv is shiny. Sarah's erv is different. Where you give miyun to where you refuse your husband in marriage, that's one thing. Where refusing a yavam in marriage to mata tzara, that's something else. Guys, what's happening over here? Let's look at the outside because she's married to her uncle. She doesn't do miyun. The uncle dies. Right now, at this point in time, we're looking at what? We're looking at a man whose daughter and Sarah are falling to the marriage. B'shas nefila, right now, it looks like a man's daughter and co-wife are falling to him. Since it looks like that, asmaris ayin, we won't let you go ahead and do miyun. Really, miyun would go ahead and take it off and make it that the Sarah was totally mutter because you were never married to the daughter. However, since b'shas nefila it looks like bitay, we won't allow it. And therefore chalitza. Where do you know this concept of what? Since b'shas nefila, what it looks like? We know it from the case of Rami Bar Chama, who we met on Daf Yud Beis. We met Rami Bar Chama, guys, all the way back on Daf Yud Beis. A long time ago. Really a long time ago. Okay, what's the case of Rami Bar Chama? Is that if a man is married to a woman and then dies, if she does me, and if a man is married to a woman, a katana, she does me into the Baal, she's mutter to marry the father. She's married to Yaakov. And then she refuses the marriage to Yaakov. No, not Yibum. Refuses the marriage. She could marry Yitzchak. She can marry Yitzchak, the father of Yaakov. Why? It's no worse than Mefutas Aviv, Anusas Aviv. You can marry. Okay. What happens if Yaakov dies? And then she falls to Yitzchak. She can't marry him. Even if she does miyun on the marriage, she can't marry him because it's near a kikalasai. It appears if daughter-in-law is falling. So you see there's a difference between giving miyun directly to the husband versus giving miyun to the dead Baal in that scenario. So that says Ula is the reason why in the case of a daughter falling with a tzara, you have to give chalitza to the tzara because nira kewat ke bitay. Says the Gemara. Let's see it inside. The Tani Rami Mercham. What did Rami Mercham say? Miyana bibal. If you do miyana to Yaakov, muteres la'aviv, you be muter Yitzchak. Biyavam. If you do miyana to Esav, asur la'aviv, then you be asa to the father. Alma b'shas nefila nearest kikalasai. Hachanami b'shas nefila nearest kitzaras bitay. And that would go ahead right in that scenario. Okay, it's very geschmack Gemara. This is the guts of Yibum. It's like a good chazara. It's a good chazara. Says the Gemara, Amara. Okay, you have a katana falling. You have a few brothers. Say Reuven and Shimon, and Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven marries the katana. Reuven dies, and Miyana Bezeh, she refuses to marry what? Shimon. Asur Lezeh, she's also on Levi. She refuses to marry Shimon, she's also to Levi. Says Rav, why? Maybe the have a balas haget. Maybe it's like the balas haget. Balas haget lav kivin the itzur laha lachad itzur lahulakula. Achanami leishna. Guys, we spoke out earlier in the Masechta. Let's say the regular case of Yibum. And instead of going ahead and doing chalitza, you give a get. So why does that do? Kivin shlei bana shuvla yivna. Since you had a chance to go ahead and do Yibum and you didn't do it, you lost your chance. Not only did you lose your chance, all the other brothers are rasa. Says Rav, just like by get, if one brother gives a get, totally out of the picture, so too, if one girl is me and does me into one brother, they're all out. That's the shita wad of Rav. Shmuel Amar says Shmuel, me and a bezeh muteris lezeh. No, even if you go ahead and say I refuse Shimon, nonetheless Levi will be permitted. For leidamya lebalas haget. Balas haget who the ka'avid ba. By balas haget, he's the one who did it. He gave the get. Hacha he ka'av the bay. She's the Amra. She said, "Loy bach. I don't want Shimon. Loy tzavinu bach. I don't desire Shimon. Bachu loy re'ina. I don't want Shimon. Habachavcha, but Levi re'ina. I want." So I think it's very important to see a Rashi over here, guys. If you have I sent it on your phone. If not, if you have regular Gemara, you'd base Amid Aleph. If you have a regular Gemara, you'd base Amid Aleph. If not, I'm going to put it on the screen anyway. You'd base Amid Aleph. It's Rashi Dibra Maskal El Ladidei. It's Rashi Dibra Maskal El Ladidei. It's towards the top. Liyav, what? First small line. Liyavam El Ladidei Liyavam Shemiana Boyesura. To the Yavam that she refused, to Shimon that she refused, Asura. The Mian Akala Lezika. Mian is Aika the Zika to Shimon. Vikoya Allah Be'eshas Ach. And therefore she's also to Shimon, since there's no Zika, that's your brother's wife. Vim Taimar, Mian Nisui Kama Akar, Varihi Nachris Etzloi, Umuteris Loi. Why are you going to say, why is she asa, according to guys? Why is she asa to Shimon? After all, she was never married to Ruvain, and she should be a nachris. And for the Gemara, Rashi, Gezer d'Rabbanan it's a Gezer d'Rabbanan, Hayav Laimina Barishain. Since she didn't go ahead, she didn't do Mian to Ruvain. Since she didn't do Mian to Ruvain. Guys, remember, if she would have done Mian to Ruvain, what does Ula hold? Totally out, right? Because there's no nearest, right? Once you go ahead, remember, the Gemara makes a distinction doing me into your husband versus doing me into your Yavam. Me into your Yavam takes place after an Afila and a nearest in some type of relationship. Masha'en Kain over here, since she didn't do Mian Berishain to her first husband, Umikayach Nisuin, because of this Nisuin that she didn't do Mian to Nafla Lis Yabim, she falls in front of Yibum. Nearest Ke'eshes Achiv. Therefore, she appears like Eshes Achiv. For Hachem Mila Kaman, Mishas Nefila nearest Kekalasai, for the Shmuel Perek Beis Shammai, Mishim Tsaras, which we did right now. So it's a very Geshmaka Rashi that explains beautifully the scenario over here. Why would Shmuel say Mina Bezem Muteres Lezeh? You know, it's if you do me into this one, you be mutter to the other ones, is because since you didn't do me into the husband, since you didn't do me into the first husband, we're enacting the Yibum scenario. Had you done me into Ruvain, forget the whole picture. Everyone's free. But since you didn't do me into Ruvain and you fell to Shimon, and now you do me into Shimon, why did you ended the Zika to Shimon? So to Shimon, what are you retroactively? You're Eshesach, because you're still married to Ruvain, but you'd still be mutter to the other brothers. And that's the Shita of Shmuel. That Rashi explains Shmuel beautifully. So we have machlokes Rav and Shmuel. According to Rav, mina is asur l'zeh. According to Shmuel, mina b'zeh muteres l'zeh. V'leidayin l'balas haget, and it's not similar to balas haget. Okay, says the Gemara weiter. Rav Asi Omar, mina b'zeh muteres afilu loy. A third shita. Guys, mina b'zeh. If she does mian to Shimon, I feel muteres. I feel loy. Should be permitted. I feel to Shimon. Lema kereb oishia svirale. Let's see. Also like Rabbi Oishia. What do Rabbi Oishia hold, guys? That ain mian lizi kasai. Guys, ain Rabbi Oishia. We began to daf. There's mian to Maimer, but there's no mian to Zika. So therefore, the reason why, even though she did mian to Shimon, it doesn't count for anything. So let's say also like Rabbi Oishia. Dama eno enes lizi kasai. Says the Gemara, "B'chad yavam hachanami dematzi akra." Chad yavam, you're able to be oika. You'll be able to be oika the mion, oika the marriage, and the Mefarshim say you'd still be asa because nearest ke'eshes achiv, you'd still be asa to him. Hacha b'shnei yavam maskinan. The ein mi and lechatzi zika. Look, guys, view these three brothers and the zika to each one. So if you do. You can't be half pregnant, right? If you do half to one, it doesn't work. It doesn't take off anything, right? Halfway, it just doesn't work. So the Mela, really, the reason why you could do, the Mian is a Mian, but the Mian is not fulfilled. Had you done Mian to Shimon and Levi, you're right, but you didn't do Mian to Shimon and Levi. You only did the Shimon. Since you didn't do it to Levi and you didn't take off the Zika, you could marry what? You can marry Shimon. Kiyasa Rav and Amr Rabbi Yochanan, when Rav came off from Eretz Yisrael, he said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Mian abizeh, muteres lo'achin, someone who does mian to the Shimon is permitted to the brothers. Now it's mashma like Rabbi Yochanan that you're not permitted to Shimon, guys. Good? Be medayik. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Mian abizeh, if you do mian to Shimon, muteres lo'achin, you be mutter to Levi and other brothers, but you would still be asa to Shimon. And they're not moided to him. Man who was not moided to him? Amar Abaye was Rav. God, why did Rav say, guys? Asal is there, and Asal is there. Me and is there, Asal is there. You Asal all the brothers. So clearly, it can't be clearly. Right, that's the diametrical machlokes. And Rava Amar, who's v'lei hoydelu is Rabbi Oishia, right? So because Rabbi Oishia says that what, guys? Rabbi Oishia says that there's no zika at all. So no zika at all. You should be permitted to him as well. Ravasi, others say Ravasi because Ravasi said that what. That for the brothers you're not permitted, but for him you would be permitted. According to Rabbi Yochanan, for him you wouldn't be permitted, only the brothers. What the third machlokes was Beisham Beisilo is Beisham Tanya. Amalim Beisilo Beishamai. Pishun Hagamel. And this guy made it into the Gemara. It was Pishun the camel driver. Mina Ishtai Shalei B'Fanav. His wife within me and Shalei B'Fanav. So how can you say you can't do Shalei B'Fanav? Listen, Pishay Nagomel v'mida kfusha modad lefigach moiden la b'mida kfusha. Literally, he would measure with the indented side of a cup, meaning he was a cheat, meaning he was mafsid his wife's nichsei miloi. So since this is all the Rabbanan Gezeris, the Rabbanan again, it's all the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan, he was mafsid and nichsei miloi, they were mafsid him his wife. Yeah, now they treat him in such a way. Says the Gemara, what did he do? It's in the Ka'achol Peri, Pshita Nesuahi, when he was eating the Paris of Nichse Miloig, it's Pshita, she's been a Suah. I've only been Shami Nesua Loimina. Guys, great kasha. Guys, listen to Lam Kasha. Guys, great kasha. Who's this dialogue between Beishamai and Beisila, right? Beishamai said what? Not Shloi B'Fanav. Fred Beisila, but they did do it B'Fanav. And for Beishamai, this guy, they did it Shloi B'Fanav, but he was abusing his wife Nichsei Miloig. Says Beishamai, 1 second. Nichsei Miloig, who gets Nichsei Miloig? And a Russo and a Sua. And a Sua. But you, Beishamai, said that, well, there's no me by the Sua. How can you? In other words, you put your foot in your mouth. You said that what he was abusing the Paris, so they gave him a right. But you hold me and can't be done by in the sewer. Obviously, she was in the sewer when she's what? When he's eating Paris, that he's eating the Nichsei. And for the Gemara, you know what? This guy really got it on both ends. Said the Gemara, Beis Shammai says, Trey Ketire of they made him 2 knots. In other words, since he used his wife's Nichsei, we did two heterim. One shlei b'fanav and sveitens. I feel it was nesua.
This is isolated, and they made a
This is what he said.
special case.
I know this is what Beis Shammai said, that this, because it is what this guy's actions did, this is what they did to him. Beis Hillel learned if they bezdin, shlei b'fnei bezdin, right? Beis Shammai says only from the bezdin, and Beis Hillel says either one. Tanan Hasam, we learned in the last parak, hachalitza van miyunun b'shleisha, that need three. Mantana, who is that? Amarabba Beis Shammai. Because of mashma, because when Beis Hillel said afilu shlei b'fnei bezdin, it's mashma, you don't need a bezdin. So by Yom afilu tim Beis Hillel. I kind of like when Beis Hillel elad being in mumchin. You don't need mumchin. Ava shleisha being, but you need three. Because Tanya Beis Shammai yomim b'fnei bezdin, Beis Hillel b'fnei bezdin, v'shlei b'fnei bezdin. Ve'elu moedim should tzarich shleisha. You need shleisha. But the question is the level of competence of the shleisha. According to Beis Shammai, Yimashmi, you need mumchin experts. According to Beis Hillel, be regular Joes. Says Gemara yesterday, Yumi Amarav, Nachman Alocha Koisei Zug. The Alocha is like what? Oh, I skipped. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shim Machshir Mishnayim, even two. Rabbi Yosef Yumi Amarav Nachman Alocha Koisei Zug. That Rabbi Yosef Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar B'Shimon, even two will be acceptable. The final din of the Mishnah, Beis Shammai Yom Timoyin only once, and then you wait till you get older. And Beis Shammai says, Beis Hillel says you keep on doing it. Now it's mashma that why did you do me in a second time, right? You do me, and then when you get up, you do me when it becomes before it becomes a doila. No, you did me in already. Why you do me in a second time? I'm a Shmuel. It doesn't mean you do me in a second time. It means that the mian she did when she was a katana, you wait till she gets old and says, I want that mian to be in place. Ula Amar Tati Katana is two separate dinim. You either wait, she does mian and waits till she gets bigger and then accepts Erisin. She does mian and gets married right away. The altar. Mama, she gets married right away. I have the gersa over here. Timoyin, it says v'timoyin v'tinasei. El Shmuel shetaglo v'toimei boy. Shmuel says until she gets older, it says right sani. So it shouldn't say shetaglo v'tinasei. It should say shetaglo v'toimar. It says more like enochanami kasha. It's fair. Thank you for listening.